to Ceduna, the town of Ceduna, which is way over on the far west of South Australia, at the edge of the Nullarbor. It had one of these trial programs of the cashless debit card, and that was axed last year. Perry Will is a former mayor of Ceduna, and he's also run the tourism visitor centre there for many a year. Thanks for joining us, Perry. Tell us, through the tourism visitor centre, you would have seen the effects of crime and social problems wax and wane. Was there a noticeable drop during the cashless debit card, and has crime escalated since it was scrapped last year?
Yeah, good evening, Chris. It's definitely changed. When we were in the visitor centre for 12 and a half years, and the first 5 years we were there, like we started in 2010 and up until 2015, 16, when the card came in, we had a fair few problems. But there'd been, prior to that, there'd been like 102 programs tried in Ceduna, things from, like dry areas of the town and restrictions on booze through botloads and all sorts of stuff like that was done. And when the cashless card come in, the in-due card, as it was known at the time, it made a huge difference. And now, back in October last year, the people started coming off it, and a lot of people had quite a bit of money on the card because there was still some people that really didn't understand what the card was. I mean, it was about a year or so ago, I was speaking to an elderly gentleman outside the visitor centre, and he was still quite angry because he couldn't use the card to go to the bottle and buy a couple of flagons of booze and a bottle of Jimmy. He didn't, and like I said to him, that was the point of the card, was that you can't buy alcohol with it, and you can't get cash. It's best you go and buy your kids some food. Of course, he used the usual thing, just told me to F off. But
well, if that's the problem now, you're now seeing more alcohol problems in the town and more crime, and even people who talk this down admit there's been some sort of an escalation. What's the answer then? Because it doesn't sound like the federal government's going to bring the card back. How do you actually get on top of these problems?
Well, I mean, we have I think 40-something agencies in town, and there's more than half of them are directly related to dealing with this. And I mean, they deal with it as best they can, but the police are the front line with it. And fair dinkum, I wouldn't want to be a policeman in Ceduna or any of these other towns that have these same
What
problems.
are the real
They've
problems?
got the hardest job on this earth.
Describe to us the sorts of issues that you're dealing with.
Well, the problem is, I mean, the police go out and arrest someone for fighting in the public or for any sort of incidents like that, and they take them back to the police station. Well, that basically takes them off the beat for the rest of the day, because one has to stay there and watch them in the cell, and the other one basically is doing bookwork. And we just don't have the numbers of police here to be able to deal with it. But the main thing is that intimidates the tourists and everyone else is the fact of them yelling and drunkenness and defecating and urinating and that in the public areas. People are not used to sort of seeing this stuff. And I mean, in the visitor centre, while the card was in place, there were people coming and they couldn't believe the difference in the town of what they'd seen it before. And then in the last couple of months that we were in there, like December and January this year, we had people coming back saying, what the hell has gone on in this town that has returned to what they saw it as 10 years ago? I mean,
it's so sad to hear.
So sad that we've spent all this time and all this effort to get Ceduna to the situation it was, a beautiful town, a beautiful area along the front that tourists and the locals can enjoy, that's been completely devastated by people acting in a drunken method and leaving their litter and rubbish and everything else over the place.
Perry, thanks for joining us. I appreciate your insight. Perry Will there, as you heard, used to run the visitor centre in Ceduna, a former mayor there as well. The point is this card was working. All the evidence is it was helping some families, it was reducing some alcoholism and some crime. Not a silver bullet, of course. Why would you take it away for some ideological reason? If it's a practical reform that works, do it. If it helps just 2 kids get to school, why wouldn't you keep it in place?